Thanks, John. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions around, number one, about what has changed since you've been using project-based learning in your classroom. So what from the beginning to now, and the differences that you've seen in how the kids act.
Okay. So firstly, I think the first time that I ran project-based learning, so in term 1, I don't think there was enough structure for the students. So they were sort of wandering a little bit, and a lot of the students actually chose to produce products that they felt really, really comfortable with. And unfortunately, a lot of them just produced PowerPoint presentations. So they weren't sort of moving out of that comfort zone. Moving on to the next one that we ran, it was really obvious to notice that, first of all, students started thinking outside their comfort zone. So they started moving outside, they started creating other things, and we actually had a bit of a conversation with them, and we spoke about, if you could choose to present information in any way, how would you do it? And we got the students to come up with about 30 different ideas, and then we sat them all down and we said, right, there's 30 reasons not to use PowerPoint. And so the students now are just doing an abundance of different things.
So when they how do they come to class? What do they do during the class? What is actually happening in a project-based learning classroom?
Okay, first of all, it's incredibly busy. So I feel like I've got no time at all. So I walk into the class and I'm not sort of thinking, oh, what can I do here? It's just straight into it. When I walk down to the room, what I find is different. The students are waiting outside the room, and they're actually saying, they're talking about the project. So I'm walking up, they've just finished lunch and they're standing around and they're talking, and it's not just the groups talking, but there's one group talking to another group about different ideas. So they're actually that involved in it that takes up, you know, a lot of their spare time. They're actually discussing the projects. So so moving in, so we normally have a quick sit down and it's a 5-minute discussion about where they're going. But like I mentioned before, I've changed it so there's a lot more structure now, so the students sort of know milestones, and I think that's really important. And I think as we move on, some of that structure can actually be pulled down. But for the moment, they love sort of knowing where those milestones are.
Yeah, having to produce by a certain amount of time.
That's right.
So what's the real audience this time with this project that you're doing at the moment? So who have you invited?
Okay, so we've actually sat down and had a meeting with the students, and we asked them, we said, who do you think would be the appropriate type of people to invite? So keeping in mind that we would like, how the driving question was, how do we spark change in the way that we treat animals in our society? So we got the students thinking about that, and we brainstormed, and they came up with a variety of different groups and people. So right from the RSPCA to people from Coles, Woolworths. We had people mention Tony Abbott and various other politicians, and I said, you can contact anybody you want. And so we're leaving that up to the students to actually invite these people in to have a look at the products, because the idea was that they spark change, so it doesn't just stay in our school, that it moves out.
Very good. Sorry I can't be here.